Picture this. It's the night before the first day of the 8th grade. You pick out the perfect outfit at the mall with your mom on the clearance rack. Your pink backpack is filled to the brim with new pens and new notebooks waiting to be used. There is an air of excitement mixed with a tinge of the usual jitters. But for some reason, something feels a little different. You take a step towards the mirror, you look at your reflection, and you notice your thighs touching a little closer than you'd like. And the space between your brows, those fuzzy, short hairs starting to creep in, and your arms, they feel flabbier than usual, and they jiggle with every slight movement. And your nose, it's plump, it's prominent, and it's round, not perfect or pristine. It's just there. In analyzing these changes, you've come to realize that you were always the person you saw in that mirror. You just chose not to look at it until now. I mean, let's face it, the girls in your class labeled you the fat, ugly one, and the boys, you were a joke, and you no longer wanted to be the laughingstock of the class. So naturally, you do what every 13-year-old girl does the night before school. You make it your mission, year round, to transform into the girl you've always wanted to become. You start to go down a rabbit hole. First, it was the crazy yo-yo diets. Let's see here. It was the military diet where you ate nothing but rice, broccoli, and those super gross undercooked hot dogs. Then it was the one where you gave up every carb known to man, including potatoes. You were very, very sad about that. Then it was the crazy workouts, the extreme cardio, and the attempt to become more athletic, even though you were terrible. I mean, it does work out to some extent. You do make the cross-country team, and you even win a ribbon. But somehow, some way, you could never brush off that lingering feeling of being enough for yourself or for anyone. Something that takes you years to overcome. This was my story of how I had an eating disorder at 13. It wasn't a straight line forward, but rather it took years to detach my worth from my weight, and even longer to see myself as someone who truly deserved to take up space. Leading up to 5 years ago, I stepped onto a pageant stage for the first time, which felt like a radical act of reclaiming my confidence. Not to fix who I was, but rather to celebrate the confidence I had fought so hard to build. But even in those empowering spaces, glow-up culture still lingered in the back, measuring whether my shine was enough. My armor was the sparkly dresses. It was the months of training, all for a few minutes where I could step onto that stage, look the audience dead in the eye, and tell myself I did it. Okay, so we're gonna take a brief pause here and do a little experiment. I want everyone in the audience to close your eyes. Okay, cool. Eyes closed. Now listen carefully. Raise your hand if you've ever felt like you were not good enough. Okay, now I want you to open your eyes and look around. You can put your hands down. A study from the Canadian Women's Foundation shows that between the ages of 9 and 13, women begin to lose their confidence. 36% of grade 6 girls reported feeling confident, but that number has plummeted down to only 14% by grade 10. Now that's shocking. In telling this story, I want to emphasize that this was not an overnight wake-up call, but rather a series of events in my early adolescence that shaped my self-esteem. It was relatives commenting on my weight, advertisements touting that thin is in, and girls my age who got more attention from boys simply for how they looked, despite what felt like being the most awful people in the world who were trying to ruin my life. And that is exactly where glow up culture comes in. It's that sultry voice in the back that convinces you of an alternate reality. It tells you to feed into those pressures, standards, and shift your focus on becoming your true self. Because your current body right now, yeah, that's not really you. Throughout time, glow up culture has always centered around this idea of becoming your best self, but those standards have never truly solidified into place. In the Middle Ages, it was shaving off your eyebrows to reveal a larger forehead, similar to Elizabeth I. In the Victorian age, it was ingesting tapeworms and sporting corsets to get that extreme hourglass figure. And today, it's taking medications like Ozempic, especially if you don't need them, to drop the weight and get those results quicker. But through constant reinvention, it turns growth into external milestones like a number on a scale, measurements, and an ideal image. Essentially, your body becomes a living project. You experiment with new diets and you buy into the aesthetic of someone that's under construction. New clothes, new hairstyles, studying the countless videos on how to get a better body by Friday or become unrecognizable by spring. But what if in chasing better, we're losing something real? Glow up culture promises empowerment, but what if it starts to become a performance? Your every move is curated. Here's the real problem with glow up culture. It convinces us that the next version of ourselves will finally be enough. That just making one more tweak, losing one more inch, and one more pound, we will unlock respect, belonging, and safety. Maybe we will no longer be picked on at school. Maybe we will finally be asked out on a real date instead of being asked out as a joke. We edge towards the after picture. Perfect, polished, ready. But what the glow up hides is that the standard never stays still. It morphs, reshapes, re-uploads. Every time you think you've caught up, your feed refreshes and you're still chasing. In today's social media-fueled world, they shift every few weeks. One trending clean girl aesthetic, then it's a mob boy flex. The next thing you know, the emphasis is on curves, then tone, then glowy. Your phone buzzes, your feed flips, and the ideal resets. So even if you manage to hit one target, that target moves again and again, and it happens with a single swipe. A 2023 experimental study published in Frontiers in Psychology found that just 3 minutes of scrolling through idealized images online significantly increased negative mood and body dissatisfaction among participants. Nervous glances in front of the mirror become routine. Self-comparison becomes automatic. Self-critique becomes internalized. Then there's a human brain's reaction. Research on what some call the attractiveness reward loop. Seeing faces or bodies that match society's ideal trigger brain circuits tied to reward, the same pathways activated by shopping, gambling, or dopamine hits. You feel good for a second, but that feeling isn't fulfilling. It's craving, it's hunger, and like any addiction, the fix fades so fast, you look for it again and again. Glow up culture doesn't teach you to grow, it teaches you to crave. And that is exactly how it keeps you loyal. It preys on isolation by promising connection. Because when you already feel alone, when you already feel invisible or less than, glow up culture swoops in and it whispers, I see one more thing to fix. So tell me, what exactly does that craving get you? Maybe likes, maybe glances, maybe second glances? But it does not guarantee kindness. It does not guarantee safety. And it does not guarantee that real connection will follow. This brings me to something deeper. The curse of what psychologists like Ayesh Pereira call the halo effect. The idea that when we view someone as good or attractive, we automatically assume that they are smart, kind, capable, deserving, even if we don't know them. Walking into a room with a certain look might make heads turn for a second. But what happens next depends on what you offer them. Oftentimes, we don't think about what happens after you enter a room. I mean, you are solely fixated on that visual after picture. But here's the thing. If you're still carrying the same doubt, the same guardedness, those same insecurities, that first impression falls flat. Because appearance opens a door, but only character keeps you in the room. Look at what social media calls the male loneliness epidemic. An article published in Sage Journals by Ozan Felix Dubois shows that a lot of young, impressionable men turn to what research calls red pill content online. Influencers are promised that if they bulk up, get the right haircut, they will unlock respect, dates, and connections. But glow up culture doesn't just influence, it monetizes. Masculinity becomes a product from courses to coaching calls, and soon it stops becoming advice. It becomes a voice in the back that moves a needle and tells you that you're not enough, but for a small price, you can get a little closer. They're sold the idea that masculinity is a performance, that if they look dominant enough, they will be loved. But research shows that despite the rise in gym culture and image-driven masculinity, more young men report feeling lonely than ever before. Why? Because no amount of muscle fixes feeling unseen. No perfect haircut makes up for never learning how to let someone in. Others don't remember how you looked, what clothes you wore, or how you styled your hair that day. They remember how you made them feel. Pageants taught me how to shine, but they also taught me that shine is nothing without substance. You can walk the stage beautifully, but what keeps people listening is character. And that's when I understood glow is cheap, presence is rare. I'll repeat this again. Glow is cheap, presence is rare. The world may reward polish, but what really builds community is integrity. And community isn't a group of like-minded people with similar aesthetics. It's people who allow you to truly be yourself and open up. If we continue to accept the halo effect, that looking good deserves unquestioned value, what does that say about us? That kindness is a bonus for aesthetics rather than a baseline for humanity? That empathy is conditional and love is transactional? I mean, as long as you continue to fit that mold, everyone will continue to treat you with respect. And that is exactly where glow-up culture fails us. It convinces us that we can earn belonging through appearance alone. But real connection is not built on polish. It's built on presence and how you show up for others. One of the most fundamental things my pageant coach, Sylvia, has taught me is that being a beauty queen isn't how you look, it's how you make others feel. A crown is not a symbol of beauty. It represents meaningful leadership and empathy. Healthier mindsets grow in a community surrounded by people who love you as you are, not as you appear. But glow-up culture pushes you into isolation and calls it discipline. It turns self-improvement into secret battles where you're not allowed to win and you're consistently jumping through hoops. We may not erase beauty bias overnight, but we can redefine what we value and how we show up for each other. It's made of the messy moments in between the setbacks, the doubt, the lessons you did not ask for that eventually shape you into someone stronger. And ultimately, the real glow up is learning to live in the pause and embrace living instead of performing. Pageants have taught me so much about discipline, confidence, and showing up for myself. They gave me stages where I could shine and communities where I could grow. But it took me a while to learn that those moments under the lights don't define my worth. They only reflect one chapter of who I am. Blow up culture warped my perception of how the world saw me, but when I tuned out the noise, I realized that what I yearned for wasn't actually a transformation, it was for connection. I wanted to look different so people would notice me. But no one watched how much food I ate or what I was eating, and that I actually felt more comfortable making plans with friends and eating in front of other people. Because outside the evening gowns and the endless rehearsals, there's a version of me after the pageant, eating burgers with my friends and sending them silly, stupid cat memes to let them know that I thought of them. And my friends never see me as a pageant girl or an aesthetic to maintain. With them, I don't have to earn belonging by being impressive. I get to be Anne. Being around them taught me something I could not see in that mirror. I was already becoming someone worth loving and deserving of that same love I gave. And that was the first time in a long time. I felt seen not for my appearance, but for my humanity in that imperfect moment. I realized that the glow wasn't in the perfect performance. It was in the breath I took after. Because when the lights dim and the show ends, the world is not asking us to be flawless. It's asking us to be real. Thank you.